Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Rawr versus Pendulum Gaming Silver Division Week 6, the last series here of the Silver Division before we enter the playoffs. And we did see Rawr Yordlez winning game 1 here. I don't think anyone was particularly, unfortunately, surprised with that. And now we do have Pendulum Gaming going to be on the red side this game now. Rawr Yordlez on the blue side. And Rawr Yordlez with a couple of changes to their roster here in the mid lane. They're bringing in Mr. Saruks here into the mid lane. And in the support position, they've moved Winter07 out, and they've moved Ertoika from that mid lane to the support position here. So we'll have to see how that works out now in terms of shaking up their roster and their picks. Now, in terms of picks and bans, Rawr Yordlez banning the Ezreal, Taric, Caitlyn, and Echo here. So despite Fang Rui having had a really solid game on that Ezreal, they're actually going to be the ones to ban it out, interestingly enough. And for the side of Pendulum Gaming, they're banning the Zac, Mordekaiser, Wukong, Misfortune, and Zaya, and Mad Jax. Mordekaiser was an absolute pain and problem for the side of Pendulum in game 1. So they're banning it out, and we'll have to see what adaptations they make there. Now, in terms of picks, Rawr Yordlez here for this game. They're going a little unconventional. I guess that's why they might have swapped some people out, because they're going with Yasuo, Lux, Malphite, Hecarim, and Annie here. And, I mean, that is... What can you say to that here? That is a Yasuo composition. And that means it's probably going to be a Yasuo in the ADC position. So most likely Annie in the mid lane, Lux, Yasuo in the bot lane, Malphite in the top, and Hecarim in the jungle. I'm excited to see the pony make its way down here into the Silver Division as well. We saw it in, I believe, all 5 games last night in the Vengeful Reaper versus 7 men playoff game there, the quarterfinal. So excited to see it here as well. And so there's an interesting composition from Rawr Yordlez. They're looking for fights. This composition is going to struggle to siege turrets and take structures down. But trying to fight it on open ground is going to be a nightmare here for Pendulum Gaming. And for Pendulum Gaming, they've drafted themselves a Vi, Rakan, Varus, Renekton, and Veigar. And if you don't watch the Pendulum Gaming games, you would be forgiven for thinking that's a Veigar mid and Renekton top. Which it could potentially be, but usually it's Killer Unicorns taking that Veigar. So even if it does end up in the mid lane, I am expecting to see a lane swap come out, and for it to be Killer Unicorns taking the mid lane if they do opt to do this. We'll have to see here, but I do actually think they might do that, because the Renekton is a bit of a counter to the Malphite there. Can just break through that shield, negate a lot of that passive from Mad Jax. So we'll have to see how that one turns out. And we're seeing another Varus. Ironically, I think we've seen more Varus this week after the nerf to Varus than we have in all the weeks prior to this, where Varus was still the #1 ADC in pro play here. Now, when you're looking at Pendulum's sort of composition here, it seems to me like a bit of a mixed bag. Renekton, Vi, Rakan, these are engage heavy early game champions. Varus as well, used to be very strong in the early game. Now with the poke nerfed, is not quite as big a deal as he used to be, but still a solid pickup. I don't think he's that strong in the early game now. I think it's more of a mid game pick. And then you've got the Veigar, which is the mid to late game pick. So a bit of a mixed bag here. They've got themselves some late game insurance, but I don't think that's a good thing to do against the Yordlez, who are known to be a team which tends to just win quite early here. And even last game, when it did run 40 minutes, it was the Yordlez able to really show off their mechanics in the late game fights here. And for the Rawr Yordlez team, I mean, this is a team that's drafting to smash in the mid game. There's a ton of AoE here. You've got the Unstoppable Force to set up for the last breath. You've got the Onslaught of Shadows, which will just completely disorient, disengage, and just mess up a fight here. You've got the Summon Tibbers from Mr. Saruks, and I believe it was, I want to say it was Yordlez last week who had, I believe it was Tibbers. Sorry, I'm just trying to check who they had here. No, it was not them. It doesn't look like, unfortunately. Okay. No, it was actually Pendulum Gaming who had Tibbers Embrace on their team. That's, I think, the last Annie we saw as well. So, yeah, I mean, the Annie pick has had dubious success. It's very strong in team fights, though. We saw last week whenever Tibbers and Brace could get the Tibbers off into the midst of the enemies, it would do a lot of damage. So it will come down to if Mr. Starbucks can get this going here. And then they do have the Lux ultimate as well, Final Spark, to just cut across everybody in the team fight. So Rawr Yordlez has a plan, a very, very easy, straightforward execution for themselves here, and it's just fighting in the mid game, fighting as 5. The bigger the fight, the better for them. So we'll have to see how that one's gonna work out. Again, Yordlez looking like they're going to invade, and they've been doing this a lot. They often feel like they are the stronger team, and I do like proactivity here from this team. Are going to come out, and I think Mad Jack might have gotten spotted out here. So we'll have to see if they can actually collapse on Nerf, because Nerf saw them coming, will be safe, be able to hop over the wall. And the side of Pendulum is going to know they're being invaded on. They're going to instantly send Yasuo only and Killer Unicorns in to drop aggressive wards in there. It looks like it will actually be Yasuo only in the top lane with that Renekton. They're going to send Killer Unicorns with the Bygar into the mid lane instead, as expected. Now the ward coming down, they do manage to clear it, so the blue buff not going to be warded up. The question is, are they actually going to go for this? And is Snugglebutt and Irrelevant going to be able to cause them problems on this take? Mad Jack has to start hitting back to lane, or he will not get there in time. We end up seeing all of Yordlez backing out after the invade there. They're going to fall back. Just started up safe. No reason to throw anything in the level 1 here. And in these lanes right now, I'm actually kind of favoring the side of Pendulum Gaming in the top and the mid lane a little bit for now, because Vygar are actually a really solid counter pick to the Annie. With the Event Horizon, can sort of control the positioning in the mid lane here, because Annie is a very linear champion. She projects what she wants to do very easily. If she starts walking up to you and she's got her stun available, or just one charge off from the stun, you know she's looking to engage on you. So you just need to throw Event Horizon up. And we are seeing a Glacial Augment Annie come out from Mr. Sarux. Previously had seen Predator Annie from Tibbers and Brace there. So different types of Annies here. We'll have to see how this one works out. This slow will make it easier for Mr. Sarux to look for those engages on that summon Tibbers there. And in the bot lane, this is the one that's going to be a little rough, I think, for Pendulum here. With the Yasuo, generally, you have to be very careful of him all inning you, especially if you're squishies. And you've got the Rakan, you've got the Varus here. Instead, they're going to be the ones pulling the trigger. Toika right now, the target, the heal coming up from Toika will be enough. Enough to keep her safe for now. We do see the exhaust coming on. That's going to force Fangrui to disengage while that exhaust is on him. He still has his own exhaust. And while we were watching that mid lane, Timic actually gets first blood right now onto Mrs. Sarux. That Vi early game gank is solid here. And unfortunately, Annie, not a very mobile champion, has to be very aware, because if you can collapse on the Annie's probably dead. We do see the flash also burnt from Mrs. Sarux. They're traded with Timic. And that's going to mean it's not probably going to be available right away when Annie hits 6. So Killer Unicorn's going to have a bit more breathing room. Doesn't have to worry about that flash Tibbers right away. And so far, Neverfreeze farming it up, but he is not known to be a passive jungler here. So we'll have to see where he opts to throw his first gank of the game here. We've seen a lot of Hecarim recently. I'm not sure why he's suddenly come into favor. I actually do really like it. And actually, I think this is the first Ghost Hecarim we're seeing in the league. We've been seeing a lot of Flash Smite, Ignite Smite, but now we're seeing the Ghost Smite. And with the Ghost, it has just been recently buffed, both these last patches here, where it's instantaneous, so you get the immediate full movement speed boost, and there's a 5% increase on what the movement speed used to be there. So now it is 28% movement speed early on, and does skill up with levels as well. So that's going to give Hecarim a lot of movement speed as well as damage, and that's the key component here for the Hecarims. Despite going down early, Mrs. Sarux is actually winning the mid lane CS trade here. And Killer Unicorn trying to stack up his passive, trying to get as much AP as he can. but it does take a bit of time to scale here. And if he doesn't get some, if he got some poke down, we might have seen immediate attempt to burst with that Primordial Burst at 6, but he didn't do so, and that means he's probably going to be on the back foot for a while. And by the time he can look to pressure, we most likely will see the flash back up for Mr. Sarux. And they both did take teleport in the mid lane, so both are going to play this one a bit more passively here. And Yasuo actually a fairly solid counter into the Varus. The Wind Wall able to block a lot of the poke from Varus as well. We do see the Event Horizon come out. Mr. Sarux able to walk around quite well inside that. Is trading back fairly decently. Is getting chunked though. And we might see the Tibbers come out at 6. They are kind of close, but instead it's going to be the turnaround because the junglers have gotten themselves involved right now. And I Never Fui's actually putting out a ton of damage. Able to pick up the kill onto Timic there. And that's gonna suck here for Timic. And now Mr. Sarux is 6. He can start looking to try and find a kill onto Killer Unicorns there. It does land, and now the flash immediately coming out. They just need a little bit more damage. Tibbers unfortunately gets tethered, dragged back to Mr. Sarux. And they will not be able to get the kill, but they will be able to get the Cloud Drake for themselves. And considering this is a Yasuo composition, the ability to press R is going to be massive and key here. So 10% cooldown reduction means 10% more Rs pressed right now for Rawr Yordlez. Despite the fact that usually Cloud Drake considered the second weakest of the initial Drakes, I actually don't think so for this particular composition. I think it's almost as big, if not bigger, than picking up a Ocean Soul, or Ocean Drake, pardon me, for their first pickup here, because it will allow them to spam their ultimates that much more. And we do see the teams dead even pretty much in terms of gold right now. Neither team able to find a substantial lead. They've balanced out the kills despite the first blood going the way of Pendulum Gaming. It's kind of been evened out here for the most part. Mad Jack getting bullied out by Yasuo only. That's kind of expected, but that is the Fury of the Sands down for Yasuo only, and there is still the Unstoppable Force for Mad Jack available. So far, I've only really seen the one gank coming out of I Never Fui's, but he's managed to convert it. So he's got 100% kill conversion right now on his ganks. Extremely efficient, and he's up about 12 CS, or 14 CS now, which is roughly about 3 camps here. So sizable lead, is a level up from Timic. Does have the Onslaught of Shadows available, and it's looking like he might go to that top lane, because to be fair, Mad Jack looking like he could use a little bit of help here, but Yasuo only is in the bush. Will spot out I Never Fui's, and I Never Fui's is going to realize that. Just go back, finish picking up those honey fruits, get himself back to full mana, and let's see where he decides to go now. Looks like back to his jungle to keep on farming. And Timic, having seen a glimpse of that I Never Fui's, is trying to be proactive, trying to look for an invade here, deny some of the jungle camps, but unfortunately for him, most of them cleared out right now. Only the Krugs really available, and Timic waiting here will go over to the Krugs. Instead, he's just going to rush to that bot lane because the fight already breaking out here, but he's not 6 yet, and Fang Rui is, the exhaust wears out, last breath is available. They're going to focus onto Toika instead. And we do see the flash coming out of Fang Rui to get himself out, but they survive the gank for now, and that's a win in their books. Snugglebutt and Irrelevant have been kind of poked down. Snugglebutt kind of low, has to be careful that he doesn't get caught out here. And just as I say that, the Caster's Curse kicks in, he does get knocked up. Are they going to keep on going? No, because they got the flash out. Instead, it's going to be Mr. Sarux who's in trouble here. He tried to get the last auto off, but he didn't get it. And he's going to go down as he eats a turret shot. Snugglebutt going to be the beneficiary of that one. The Primordial Burst just shy of finishing him off. And that's going to be a rough one for Rawr Yordlez. Mr. Sarux just not quite knowing his damage values there. It's a good attempt, a good roam, but an unfortunate ending. Timic able to get a bit of a break for himself, will be just fine. Did not get an assist though, despite being the bait that was dangled there. And that's kind of risky too. We've seen Veigar's pop off early. While Veigar is an amazing late game champion, I mean, if he can very easily get a hit in the mid game as well with a lot of these large team fights, a lot of these skirmishes. And when that Vygar gets a hit, when he can start stacking early, he can do a lot of damage. And we do see the Dark Seal actually, 4 Killer Unicorns coming out here. This is not one of those sort of passive Dark Seals that you build for your pots to make things more efficient. No, this is a killing Dark Seal because he does not have any consumables right now. So he's looking to try and get that one stacking. Yasuo only going to transition his lead in that top lane. The pressure in the top lane towards that Herald. Timic and him starting this one up. And we see the missing ping come out in that top lane there, but no one's checking the Herald. They suspect it, but no one's in position to stop it. And that should be Herald going over the way of Pendulum Gaming. They might look for a gank here onto Matt Jack as well. They are going to walk past the ward. He is going to see it, but can he get away fast enough here? Assault and Battery is now available. He's charging up the Vault Breaker. Will miss that, and they're just going to disengage if they fail to land that Vault Breaker there. Matt Jack is going to be just fine, and he's actually doing okay in terms of CS. He's getting pressured out quite a bit, but not necessarily that big an issue for now. And we now see I Never Freeze and Mr. Starks walking up, but they walked right past a control ward here. Will they spot it now going backwards? Yes, they do. We'll be able to clear that out. And for that, Killer Unicorn is going to be able to get some vision down near the Dragon Pit. They want to make sure that they can contest this one. It is going to be Ocean Drake, and they don't want to give an Ocean Drake up for no good reason. The laning phase is still really, really strong at this point. No turrets looking like they're going to go down anytime soon here. The longer your laning phase goes, the more important that Ocean Drake becomes. And Toika getting chunked here. Killer Unicorns might have been able to pick that up with the Primordial Burst. I'm not 100% sure, but he's not going to risk it either because he's not sure. And that's going to give priority to Rawr Yordlez because Yasuo only, not with them, has no teleport. And that's going to be Ocean Drake heading out to Rawr Yordlez. A bit of an anticlimactic ending there considering all the setup that we saw both teams sort of put into that. But Rawr Yordlez is going to be more than happy to pick that one up. We do see I Never Freeze coming in. The knockup from behind from Mad Jack. They get the Unstoppable Force. They get Snuggle, but they get Irrelevant. And Mr. Starks was there. That was a full 5-man collapse into this bot side here. A ballsy move, and they're trying to race for the first turret, but they're racing against Shelly. They drop the Herald into that mid lane. You see the teleport coming in. Who's it gonna be? It's gonna be Mr. Sarooks, but he walks right into the middle of an event horizon. And he's gone. The Primordial Burst just reducing him to a broken doll for the next 20 seconds there. And the first turret, who's it going to go to? It looks like it's actually going to be Pendulum, able to pick this one up. They just need a little bit more. One more auto attack. They beat the clock. They get the first turret, and Pendulum continue to expand their lead here. And an interesting build actually coming out of Mr. Cirques, but that'll have to go on hold. Now I Never Freeze getting hit by the turret, getting tanked up. A beautiful binding catches both Snuggle Butt and Nerf Irrelevant there to buy time for Never Freeze to get out. But speaking of buying time, that was time bought to hammer away on this mid lane inner turret. It's down to less than 10%. They can easily take this, and once they take that turret in the mid lane, it's going to crack the map wide open here. Allow Timic and Killer Unicorns to look for even more picks here in the enemy jungles. Before all that action happened, I was just going to talk about Mr. Sarooks' build a little bit here. He did build the GLP. Instead of the very common proto belt we've seen, it synergizes with that Glacial Augment, but I'm not sure how effective it'll be. We'll have to see. I personally prefer the Predator build a little bit more here. And we did see Yasuo only abusing Mad Jack in that top lane. Mr. Sarooks now trying to come up here, looking for the wraparound, but he's walked right past the control ward. Is he going to keep running in? Yes, he does. The GLP coming out, the flash following out from Yasuo only. Tibbers drop, but they will not be able to get this kill most likely. The flash coming in. I take that back. Yeah, Mr. Sarooks able to find the kill with the flash up there. A brute force gank that pays off. For the side of Rawr Yordlez right now, a lot of their ganks have been kind of brute force, like that bot lane 5-man gank under turret, and now Timic has to be careful. He's walked into scary territory right now. His Vault Breaker gets interrupted. He has nowhere to run. He's dead. Onslaught of Shadows coming in. The flash coming out from Snugglebutt and Irrelevant will keep them safe, but that's both flashes burned in that bot lane there. Toika had to flash and heal as well. So that is a 2-for-1 trade in terms of those flashes and summoners. Killer Unicorns now arriving into the bot lane here, looking to try and turn the tides a little bit, but not sure he'll be able to find anything because Rawr Yordle's already backed off here. So far, I've not really seen I Never Freeze really use that Ghost very much here. It is a fairly low cooldown as far as mobility summoners go. So we'll have to see if he does opt to use that sometime aggressively or whether he's just going to hold on to it as a defensive item. And because of that roam from Killer Unicorns, Mr. Saruk's able to farm up a bit, catch up in that CS game in the mid lane here. Apply a bit of pressure. Bot lane, that turret's extremely low. And they're looking to try and get this, but this is a Lux Yasuo bot lane. That's always been the issue with these sort of Yasuo compositions, is that a lot of times you won't have the AD range damage to easily take down turrets here. They do have 2 range champions, but they're both AP champions, so will not be able to take turrets quite as fast here. And we do see Yasuo only. Timic, they were trying to set up for a gank. Didn't realize they were sat right on top of a ward though until Timic popped that sweeper. So now we'll just disengage. Nothing to be found in that mid lane. Pendulum, despite being the ones to take 2 turrets down, despite being the ones in the gold lead, are actually kind of looking a little passive right now. Like they're on the back foot. They're not making the active plays. It has been Rawr Yordle's sort of the ones looking around, seeing where they can force a gank or find a pick. And I guess, to be fair to the players, they don't have the total gold values. All they're seeing is the sort of kill numbers and the dragons. And Rawr Yordle's is up 2 kills, is up 2 dragons. Their CS is down a little bit, but it's very, very difficult to gauge at times the importance of the CS versus turrets. And now Yordle's able to find themselves their first turret of the game in that bot lane there. They have been trying to get it for a while. Finally found a small window of opportunity where Irrelevant and Snugglebutt were back at base. But that is the Blade of the Ruined King now completed for Snugglebutt here. And if we look across, the IE for Fangrui also completed now. So a lot of damage coming out from this bot lane, both sides here. And Rawr Yordle's AoE composition is starting to look scarier and scarier here. I don't know if this is a new trend here in the Silver Division, but Mr. Saruk's... Actually, no, specifically these 2 teams, because Game 1, Yasuo only did not build boots all game at all. Game 2 here, taking a while, but we do see Fangrui being engaged on. Chains of Corruption coming across. He's not able to last breath before he goes down. That's a massive teamfight AoE skill down. Timic going dead, and I Never Freeze is still up. He's looking to be able to try and smite this, but his whole team's just dropping dead around him. Toika soon to follow. I Never Freeze dead there. Toika and Magic now running away, trying to just disengage here. But a beautiful piercing arrow, max range, max charge, able to find that one. This is a 4-for-1 right now for Pendulum Gaming in that fight, but Rawr Yordle's at Soul Point, having managed to pick themselves up the Mountain Drake there. Magic has to be careful. Killer Unicorns is coming in from the other side. The Event Horizon coming down. Is he going to pop the Blast Cone? It's going to be Magic popping that. He Unstoppable's a very short range here and has to flash to get himself to safety. Killer Unicorn's not going to overchase this one because he knows that Rawr Yordle's has respawned. And they want to get themselves the last, or not sorry, the last, but the bot lane outer turret instead, leaving only the top lane outer turret standing for the side of Rawr Yordle's. Just commenting on the way Mr. Saruk has not built his boots either. It's almost 20 minutes into the game here, relying very, very heavily on that Hextech GLP to be able to apply the slow rather than boosting his own mobility. And again, I'm not sure about that because Sork Boots is actually one of the most efficient items in the game here for magic penetration early on. And magic penetration is best when in the early levels. Now Timic being forced out from the Herald here. I Never Freeze coming in. Toika just trying to stop it from resetting. They want to be able to pick this one up for themselves, but Killer Unicorns is here, and that's going to be Herald going down to Rawr Yordle's. They are going to thank Timic for starting that one up there. Mr. Stark's running in. Wow, that boost of mobility. He gets Summon Timbers onto 2. That's Killer Unicorns and Snugglebutt. The 2 carries being bursted down immediately there. And Annie does have a speed boost built into her E nowadays, and I guess that's what Mr. Starks has sort of been relying on to look for the engages and the disengages there. So he feels like he doesn't need boots. And Shelly being summoned does not even get to hit the outer turret at all before it goes down. Will, however, take down this inner turret instead, and they're going to get one more charge off on the inhibitors right now. Can they actually take this down? Mr. Saruk's attacking it the best he can for now, but they don't feel comfortable. Everybody's not far enough range, and it is going to be Nerf Irrelevant looking for the engage. They find Neverfreeze. Is that going to be a kill though? It doesn't look like it. Neverfreeze charging in. He's looking for Timic instead. Will eventually go down. The shield from Timic is just barely enough to keep him alive. And they find one and trade their outer turret for it instead, because Mad Jack opting to just split push in that top lane. And I think if Mad Jack had been with Rawr Yordlez, that could have been a very, very different fight there. They could have looked for the turnaround, but unfortunately he was not, and they will not be able to get this. Now the mid lane, the longest lane in the game right here. And it's going to be Killer Unicorns getting caught out here. He will be able to flash his way to safety. Nerf Irrelevant though, not so lucky. Gonna get caught by the last breath. And it's actually the slow applied which gets him. Killer Unicorns going golden. Will buy him all of what, 1 second there in that stasis before he gets wiped out as well. And now suddenly Rawr Yordlez firing back. They found themselves a lead into the game. 700 gold right now, and Pendulum falling back onto the back foot right now. And that's a very, very dangerous thing to see here. Rawr Yordlez starting to pop off. You give them an inch, I've said it before, they'll take the whole damn foot and leg as well. And you can see them really starting to come online. They've hit that spike point with their composition. They can actually win fights 4v5 on open ground, and we've actually seen that happen already here. Every single champion carrying AoE damage, carrying AoE spells here. That's what's giving Mad Jack sort of this freedom here to continuously split push. I mean, Malphite not the fastest or best split pusher by any means, but might still be better than that Annie there in the mid lane, I think. Now the Mountain Drake coming up in about 45 seconds here. It is soul point for the side of Rawr Yordlez, so they could look to pick this one up. And it will give them a even bigger shield than they already have. Make Malphite actually do more damage, because it does increase his armor. And part of his damage is based on his armor there. I don't think there's anything Pendulum can do about this one here. They've given up too much here. There are 3 Drakes in, and they kind of have to contest this, or they give up a very, very important soul here for the side of Rawr Yordlez, which is permanent. Mr. Saruk sitting in this bush. They don't know there's a ward, and they have to be careful. It looks like Pendulum Gaming baiting them out a little bit. The piercing arrow is going to come across, not doing that much damage, and that's going to trigger to Rawr Yordlez that, hey, maybe they know we're in here. Game of cat and mouse of bait, and it is going to be a beautiful 2-man knock up here. The last breath comes across Yasuo only, and Killer Unicorns melted immediately here. And now it's a question of who can get out. It's not going to be Timic, that's for sure. He was deep and he engaged, and you see I Neverfreeze running amok in the backline. He gets snuggled, but only Irrelevant left alive, and not for long. He's dead as well. That's a quadra for Fang Rui, who managed to steal the last kill there. Unfortunately, I can't quite see who took it. I think it was I Neverfreeze actually on the engage, but either way, no Penta for Fang Rui there, and they're going to go for the dragon, pick themselves up the soul, and Fang Rui and Mr. Saruk are going to push into the mid lane here, crack that inhibitor turret, but I don't know if they can get the inhibitor because Pendulum's starting to spawn right now. They have to be careful. Event Horizon comes out. Fang Rui able to just block that one up, and they might have overstayed a little bit here. Mr. Saruk's turning around, but Summon Timbers not going to be used for now. I Neverfreeze in as well, and they're going to keep chasing Mr. Saruk's. Unfortunately, the stun missing from Urtoika, but the final spark comes out. They are trading 3 for 1 here. They are winning this as the team breaks up, and this might actually be the game. There's only Killer Unicorns and Nerf Irrelevant left alive, and I correct myself there because it's going to be only just Nerf Irrelevant alive there as Killer Unicorns gets tagged by that unstoppable force. That 10% cooldown reduction makes it feel like it's always available here. And that's both Nexus turrets going down in short order here. Nerf Irrelevant just chilling in his fountain. He can't do anything on his own. Doesn't want to give away a free death. Keeping his KDA best he can. And now we do see Timic back up, Yasuo up, and Snuggle, but 4 people up. Are they going to look for this? Chains of Corruption comes down. They find a Neverfreeze. but Mr. Stark's turning back around. I never freeze focusing the Nexus here. They just need to keep hitting that. They do. That's game in 25 minutes. Rawr Yordlez closing out the season here, undefeated in the Silver Division. And congratulations to Rawr Yordlez as they finish this one out. Like I said, undefeated. They've only dropped even one game this entire split, and it was to Glacial Academy. As for Pendulum Gaming, they will be sitting pretty at second seed, so will still be able to, be in that top half of the standings here. And it's a much better game than the last time Rawr Yordlez and Pendulum met. The last time they met, Pendulum just kind of rolled over and died. And this second game, while it did end quickly, 24 minutes and 36 seconds here, it was a really close run thing. Yeah, and it was really just down to the end bit there, that big fight they won at the Dragon, and then just running it down into the enemy base. And Pendulum didn't have time to reset and wait for all five. They went in one by one, two by two, and that was what ended up costing them the game at the Nexus there. So well played from them. I do have confirmation now. Apparently it was I Never Freeze who stole the Penta from Fang Rui there. So unfortunate, and condolences to Fang Rui. You can go hunt down I Never Freeze and get him killed in the playoffs. And with that, that is going to be the end of the season here, of the regular season here for the Silver Division. Next week, we'll see the playoff starts. There are 4 teams, so they will be starting in the semifinals. And I'm not sure who will be playing who. I guess we will find that out later this week when the league coordinators or Doki releases sort of who's going to be facing off against whom. But I'm sure either way, it should be an exciting playoff here. And I mean, teams get another chance to try and take Yordlez down, because so far they've been an absolute monster in the Silver Division. And with that, thank you all for tuning in. We're done for today. We continue on Monday with the playoff games. And for this Monday, it is going to be DOV Nightfall facing Glacial Inferno here. And will be a best of 3, so a slightly shorter game at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then on Tuesday, we've got Glacial Omen facing off against Prismatic Esport. That one is a best of 5, so do feel free to drop by and join us for these games. But till then, it's been a blast. I'm Random Minikasa. Thank you for tuning in.